Right, I'm just putting myself in now. We are live on there, which is the one thing. It's just I'm just trying to work out a delay. This is the only issue in terms of how far behind we are on the screen. It took ages to actually connect there. Right now I'm back on. That's a minute and a half. Yeah. I don't know. I'll get going anyway now because I'm live on, and I'll explain it to them. Hi everyone. So hopefully you can all see me. I'm just going to take this one off for now. We just had a little issue there, just trying to get us all signed in. Hi Al. Let me just explain. I believe there's a minute to a minute and 15 delay between us, what we're potentially going out, and when you're seeing it. So if everyone can just bear that in mind for comments going forward for the evening, we might see a little bit of a delay in terms of when we to see it. Hopefully it kind of catches itself up. I believe it did something similar like that on the gym one, the last one we've done. So yeah, I'll just going to kind of wait for everyone to join in. It's not a big tasting, this one, because we only had X amount of samples through from Glendronach. So I know we've got about 33 or so expected, 35. So I'm going to keep an eye as we're doing it on here. Hopefully everyone's got the links. I'm also going to keep an eye on the chat to see if anyone's lost. I know we've done most of our ones on Facebook. We jumped onto YouTube again purely because we had a couple of clients that didn't have Facebook. So we've gone back onto here for you. And eventually I'll bring in Jas and obviously introduce him again to everyone. He's going to take us through fantastic tasting Glendronach, including the world's best whiskey of this year, the Glendronach 15 year, which is something to look. I'm looking excited forward to it. Again, just to bring you up to speed on everything we're doing at the moment, just in the current climate. Home deliveries, anything you want from the shop, be it whiskey, gin, champagne, vodka, rums, anything like that, then 6 days a week we deliver it. If you're local in St Albans and the surrounding areas like Harpenden, Hemel, Hatfield, Shenley, Hemel, Watford, all those kind of areas, they're all good to go. And obviously the other thing is these tastings, and the response has been absolutely phenomenal. Really overwhelming in terms of how it's gone. The first one we knew we kind of had a little bit of light in the tunnel because we sold out within a day, and then since then we've had numerous repeat buys, and we've had another sold out gin tasting which was huge, and then we've had released this series of 4. So the fine and rare one, which was something really special to look forward to, that's already gone, and that was even more limited than this one. I think we had about 16 tickets for that, and that was it. And they sold out really quick. Obviously, the Glendronach tasting sold out. I believe there's only about 6 or 7 tickets left for our next gin one, which is next week. So if you haven't got your tasting tickets for gin yet, and you do like gin, or maybe your other half likes gin, get your tickets quick. And then we've also got the Swedish whiskey tasting, which is a bit further down the line. That's on the 16th of May. So there's plenty of tickets left for that. I think a lot of people are waiting near the time because it is so far. And there won't be an email going out today for a new tasting that's anything like that. I will probably send out a reminder tomorrow for the gin and the Swedish one. And then we are about to plan the next whiskey and the next gin one. So there will be emails over the sort of beginning of the next week that will advise you on the next ones of that. How are we getting on numbers wise? Got about 19 or so. I can see a message there from Manny. So we've got, obviously, you got your 4 whiskies, tasting glass. You'll need that. I mean, Jas will go through this again in a minute. You've got your chocolate bar. Yes, that should be in there as well. Just potentially just a cup of water, just to cleanse the palate between different whiskies. That's the only thing I would probably say you'd need to have with you before we get started. I think we've got most people there, so I'm going to just bring on. I'm going to bring Jas into the mix now. Let me just find him on my stream. And let's see. Hello, right, Jess is here. So yeah, just a bit running through everything with everyone. Someone was just asking there about what they potentially need. So essentially, apart from the whiskies and the tasting glass, I've just mentioned obviously a glass of water just to cleanse the palate. I don't think there's anything else they need. Is that right?
Tasting glass, chocolate. You got your whiskies. Yeah, water. We're going to use water for a couple of the whiskies, or at least one of them. So as long as you've got your glass, it's good.
Yeah, good stuff. I think at the moment we've got, there's about 19 in at the moment, which I think is a little bit low. I'm going to come out, Justin, if you just start, I don't know, intro to anything, or just talk about anything you want to talk about. I'm just going to go into my phone and see if there's any messages from anyone on Insta or Facebook if they've been lost.
Okay. Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. Thanks for joining us. As Shane said, this is our Scotch whisky tasting, our first one of the evening of this whole series of tastings. Actually, we did a Swedish one last week, which was really good. And if you haven't signed up for the next Swedish one, which is the seasonal tasting, so that's all the seasons. They call it the seasonal tasting, but they're the whiskies that have been aged in port casks or red wine casks or Calvados. And so anyone that did join us last week, those whiskies are a real step up, and the flavors are absolutely amazing. So last week was just an introduction into what Swedish whiskey is about. But next week, it's on the 16th of May, which is World Whiskey Day. That's when we're doing it. And that is absolutely phenomenal. So definitely get involved in that. What else we got to say? I hope you, as Shane said, you've got your glasses. Let me do a bit of talk about glasses. I'm going to be using a tasting glass, which is a classic tulip glass, like so. I've mentioned this in our gin tastings as well. So this is the glass that I'll be using. It's good because it has the wide base, it funnels upwards, and it's kind of short, so it gives you the aromas, and it has that wider base to help that alcohol breathe, which is really important. So other glasses you could use would be like a good whiskey tumbler, nice heavy base. Again, this one just got a bit of a curve, and again it's quite short, so that's a good one. If you have got just a normal kind of classic Scotch tumbler like one of these, that's also good. The only thing I'd say with this, which is great for drinking, but for tasting purposes, when we're trying to sort of pick up those flavors, because of the glass being just sort of straight, you kind of just lose a bit of that flavor. But fortunately for you guys, tonight we've got some big bold whiskeys, so I think you'll be okay. The other glass you could use would be a wine glass like that, which is pretty good. I drink a lot of whiskey in this type of glass, particularly if I'm going to add water. So that's a good one. And you know what? I just took this out of the cupboard because it's it's actually a little glass that a Costco dessert came in. But it kind of worked because it funnels out and then comes in a little bit, and it's lit and it's short, so it gives you that flavor and aroma. So they're the glasswares.
Right. I think everyone is on. We've got about 20, 21 people. And I think there's a few people watching from the same house. So I think that's about right. Just a note there from Matthew. Yeah, unfortunately, it did sell out really quick. I have been quite cautious on the numbers just because we only had a limited stock. When I have poured that ready to send, I have your number. So if it's at all possible, I can squeeze an extra set out. I will get in touch with you. But other than that, yeah, Jess, I will leave you to it, and away you go.
Cool. So again, thank you, everyone. Chris Welsh, thank you for joining us. It's his birthday today, and there's a little gift from his wife. So happy birthday, Chris. And thank you to everyone else for joining. Please put your comments in there as we're going along. Let me know what you think of the whiskies. If you have any questions, I will do my best to answer. If not, then I will try and find the answers for you at some point. So, Scotch. I assume that everyone here loves Scotch whisky. I assume that everyone here knows Scotch whisky, or if you don't, then this is a great way to discover the world of whisky. Everything we're trying here is single malt. And actually, the Glendronach Tasting that we've put together is actually a very, very good way to introduce yourself to the world of whisky, particularly Scotch, because you're trying different casks. So you get to kind of see what flavors is your style. We're trying different strengths, so you work out very quickly whether you like something with a bit more punch. We're trying whiskies that are all single malt again, and so whether you might like blended, then that's obviously another question, but it will help certainly decide whether you are a single malt kind of person. And also we're going through a lot of flavors, so lots of flavors, some really big flavors, some lighter flavors, some flavors that you really have to try and kind of open the whiskey with. So it's really good. So I'm just going to scroll down these comments just so I'm not missing anything. Good. So in terms of a style of whiskey from a particular distillery, this is a really good one to kind of help you along. Hey Joe, how you doing? This is Joseph McGear. He's all set up and ready to go. Joe joined us last week. He's from the Boatyard Distillery when we did our gin tasting last week. So hopefully, look, everyone is on board, so we can begin. Whiskey. What is whiskey? Well, so whiskey is essentially the base spirit is an eau de vie. So it's known as the water of life, and this is something that has occurred and appears in all different parts of the world. The French call it eau de vie. The Scandinavians call it aquavit. In other parts of Europe, they call it aquavitae. In Latin, for example, I think that's Latin, but certainly in parts of Europe. And here in the UK, we call it water of life. This is the basis of whiskey and most spirits, but particularly whiskey. Water of life is that neutral grain spirit. It's that spirit that gives life to the barley, that is creating that spirit for us. And the Gaelic called it Uskava. Now we know it's Gaelic because it's spelt like that. Uskava. Now it doesn't look like that at all, but that is what it is. So and anyone that knows Gaelic or has come across Gaelic names, you'll know that what is written is not always what is pronounced. So Uskava, that is what they called it way back in the 1800s, and that was known as water of life. Now, over a period of time, as this Uskava made its way through the traders, as they made their way across the world and across the UK in particular, Uskava got shortened to Uska. And slowly, as it made its way down over years, Uska became Uski. And eventually, Uski became anglicized into whiskey. And whiskey is what has spread across the rest of the world with the growth of the British Empire. And that's just me saying that. I have no source of foundation for that, but that's what makes sense to me. So whiskey is where it comes from, and it comes from Uskava. So that's a little bit about where whiskey comes from in terms of how we know it today. But I guess you all want to try some of these whiskies that we have ready, and I've seen lots of pictures on Instagram and Facebook of people ready with your sets. So I just want to make sure, right, so we're going to taste this together. Anyone that has been to these tastings before will know that we'll go through all of this together, and we'll kind of try it, or we'll taste it, or we'll nose it, and please make your comments so we can see what you are getting out of it. And you all have your chocolates. You will try at certain points. Now, everyone has enough for more than one measure tonight. So go back and try the chocolate with some of the other whiskies, but I want you to try them on certain ones in particular, just because I think the flavors are going to come out. Well, they're just going to work better with some of those whiskies. So, Glendronach. Before we do start, I will give you a little bit brief history. While I do that, I'm going to pour my whiskey. So, if any of you feel free, please also pour away. Glendronach, as is up on the screen, started in 1826, and its story is quite common to many other Scotch distilleries that also started around the same time. In that it was started by a founding family. It was then bought and resold and bought again and resold over many years until in finally it was closed in 1996. Prior to being closed in 96, it was actually bought by the Teachers family in the 1960s. And Teachers, as we know, is a blend. But they, in 1968, let Glendronach release its own single malt. And the single malt from that point has just taken the distillery to another level. Unfortunately, it did close, as I say, in 1996. And then was finally reopened again in 2001 when it was rebought. And then again went through this cycle of being bought and sold until 2008 when Ben Rake, who another Scotch, Speyside distillery, they purchased the Glendronach, and it's remained in their hands ever since. Now, a lot of the staff throughout its history have lived on the premises on the distillery grounds of Glendronach, which is again a common story. So they used to have lots of houses and buildings that used to house the workers and the distillery managers. And even today, David Fitt, who is the master distiller at the English Whisky in Norfolk, he lives on site. So during lockdown, they're still able to produce whiskey. The picture you've got on there is Glen House, which is probably the most famous of houses on the distillery site, built in 1771. And apparently, this house is haunted by a lady, and it is said that she came across in one of the sherry casks from Spain. So people have said to have seen a ghost of a Spanish lady, and that is Glen House. And today it's used as one of their corporate retreats, so people can book that facility, have a conference there, or I think even stay overnight. So anyway, that's a little bit about Glendronach, and hopefully you've all poured your whiskey, the first one, and the first one we're going for is bottle number 1. So hopefully we had to hand write on the bottles. We did use a Sharpie, but if for whatever reason they've come off, well, I can't help you in that case, but hopefully you'll have your bottle number 1. That's what we're trying right now. This is the Glendronach 8-year-old, and it's called the Highland. Highland is the name they've given this whiskey because it's the particular dialect that is used around the distillery grounds. So in terms of the region where this particular whiskey is, this is the dialect of Gaelic that is used, and so that's why they've named it the Highland. And hopefully you'll have a little bit in the glass. So what we're going to do is we're going to swirl it around in the glass, okay, like this, as if it's a wine. Okay, swirl it around, let it breathe, let those aromas come through. We've got a liquid that's 46%, so it's going to punch, it's going to hit you a little bit. So it's really important to let it breathe, let it open up, and put it to your nose. Now, this particular whiskey is aged in bourbon and then sherry. So I believe, well, actually, I'm not sure. I think certainly in sort of their core range, it's the only one that they see bourbon cask, and then after that, everything is sherry. Glendronach is really known for its sherry cask, but as a lighter whiskey, they've decided to include some bourbon. And so what bourbon is going to do is give you those lighter, buttery notes. It's going to give you a hint of orange blossom, maybe, or certainly oranges. Whether you pick up those floral notes will depend on your nose. But certainly, as you put it to your nose, you should be smelling some of that lovely kind of stone fruit, perhaps, almost kind of peachy and pear, apricots perhaps, and you're going to get a bit of vanilla. So vanilla is a classic kind of flavor that you get from bourbon aged whiskies. So let me know if you're getting any of those. We found a friend. Yeah. Okay. Sonny says he wouldn't stay at the house. Yeah, I don't blame you. I wouldn't stay either. Okay, so let me know if you're getting any of those flavors. You should get some of those light vanilla notes, like I said. You should get hints of spice, but not really spice, more of a sweet spice, or maybe, like I said, the vanilla, a little bit of cinnamon. Should be getting some lovely fruit balances there, and certainly some orange as well, which is kind of great. Joe's as honeycomb. Yeah, absolutely. So honey is something that appears throughout the Glendronach range. Yeah, good shout. Yeah, and that barley certainly is right there in the back. The more you kind of mix it around, those barley notes will come through, and hopefully we'll pick them up on the note. Al says, yeah, vanilla and orange. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's try. Let's go in for a little dab now. What I'd recommend, seeing as our first one, 46%. So we want to just dab a little bit on your tongue, get your palate used to that flavor, that strength of alcohol, and just let it sit there. And then we'll go for a slightly bigger sip on the next one, and that we're going to move around the palate a bit more. Not really kind of like a, like a mouthwash, but kind of just let it, kind of wash over and kind of make its way across your palate, and let your tongue pick out various sweet notes and some of the bitterness, which you probably won't pick up in this particular whiskey, but certainly as we go along, you might do. Okay, so let's go for a little bit. Just let that sit there. Let your palate get used to the alcohol. Yeah, Georgina, it smells scrummy and it tastes great. Sunny picked up caramel. Certainly, there's hints of caramel in there, and you'll really see that come through as we go along. But that caramel is going to be from the sherry cask that we see. Like I said, this is sherry and bourbon, but it's definitely a little bit more bourbon-esque, and it's good for a light whiskey. So let me know what you're thinking. Yeah, on the palate, it's great. It's giving you all those lovely, even kind of, you're getting sultanas, and you're getting that lovely butteriness from that bourbon oak. You're getting that almost plummy, starting to see plum, and it's not quite spicy, and but it's almost like there's that bready spice. So it's almost like a gingerbread. But the spice is very, very low. It's very, very much at the back, and some of you will taste that maltiness, that kind of milk biscuit that you remember as a kid, or even kind of Ovaltine, not Ovaltine, that malt kind of drink that you had as a kid. You get some of that coming through. But yeah, I think it's really good. I think it's so kind of as an entry level, kind of first in their range, 8-year-old whiskey. It's got no harshness. It's very smooth. Oh yeah, absolutely smooth. Um, and it's giving you that lovely kind of, if you kind of feel like what Glendronach is going to be about. Like I said, it is slightly more on the bourbon side, but that hint of the sherry, which is giving that plum, it's giving those lovely kind of apricot notes. Carol and Ali, yeah, absolutely, that apricot. So that's the 8-year-old. Let me know. Swirl it with some. You probably won't need water. I wouldn't necessarily add water to this, but again, it's up to you. It's kind of your preference. But certainly good. Let me kind of explain what the casks do while you're kind of making your way through that particular whiskey. So as I said, bourbon cask, and we've got sherry cask. The bourbon casks give you that light vanilla, gives you the hint of that spice, gives you that kind of creamy, buttery notes. gives you that sort of breadiness, and that's the influence of that American whiskey and that American oak. The sherry is obviously Spanish, so it's a different type of wood. And some of us that we were talking about the woods at the Swedish whiskey tasting, you'll know that in the heat, the woods will tend to grow quicker. The rings will tend to be a little bit wider, so the barrel is going to take in a lot more liquid. As you come into Europe and certainly Scandinavia, where we were talking last week, the tree is going to go a lot slower. So the wood is going to be tighter, and it's going to be a slower maturation process. Luckily for Spain, it does have a warmth climate. So the wood, even though it's different to the American, it is still warm, and it is still very much open to collecting flavor. And that sherry that they put in there, I mean, there's something like 10 or 15 pounds of sherry still in the wood when it's shipped up to Scotland. So that's a lot of liquid and flavor still in the wood. And as soon as you put that liquid in there and it goes into the warehouses, that whiskey is taken on all of that flavor. So the sherry casks gives us that big, rich depth. There's those big tummy notes we're going to really start seeing in the next whiskey. Chris Welsh says, yeah, very mellow and buttery, absolutely. And Andrew, interestingly, you said walnuts, which is really interesting, because there is certainly some of that nuttiness that comes through, and you do really see that. Yeah. So Andrew, really good nose, well done, and actually good palate. Yeah. So for me, that is a great entry level whiskey. That's a Glendronach Highland 8-year-old. And yeah, I think it's brilliant. I think it's a nice, easy drinking, certainly on a day like today, nice, warm. It's going to give you those, that lightness. And this kind of whiskey that on a day like today, you could just, add ice, add a bit of soda, make it long, and it'll be a great kind of summer drink, or even ginger ale. Joe McGeer says it's very thick and creamy, lots of character off the still. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that traditional big cask style, yeah. That's the reason you love younger whiskies. Well, you know what? I mean, lots of young whiskies out there which are great. There's some that are maybe not as good, but this for me certainly comes in that category. So that is our first whiskey. That's a Glendronach Highland. And I'm just going to pour mine into this glass here. And I'll probably make it. Actually, you know what? I'll keep drinking it while I. No, I won't. I'll pour it because I need the glass for the next whiskey. So we're going to move on. This is, you should have bottle number 3. We're going to skip bottle number 2. We're going on to bottle number 3. Now, bottle number 3 is the Glendronach 12-year-old. So this particular whiskey is the first one in the Glendronach range that actually is all about the sherry. So they're using sherry casks from Andalusia, which are Oloroso, and a little bit of PX, so Pedro Jimenez, which we again see a lot more as we go up to the next whiskey. So Glendronach 12, aged 12 years, and this for me is where whiskey really starts getting good and kind of starts becoming proper whiskey. I just noticed Georgina said super slurpable, which is a really good word. And yes, I couldn't agree more. So I'm going to pour some of my 12-year-old into the glass. So as I say, this is bottle number 3. So the actual distillery was started by a guy called Allardyce, the Allardyce family, James Allardyce, and it's Glendronach is Western Aberdeenshire in Scotland, so it sits right between sort of the Highland border and it's kind of edging on Speyside. Glendronach means Valley of Brambles, and they use water from the Dronach Burn, so it's kind of all within the area of the distillery. So they kind of that provenance of what that whiskey is, and this is something that we talk about a lot in our tastings, whether it's gin or whether it's the whiskey. or rum that we're going to be trying very, very soon. There's a lot of provenance about what we want to see in the spirit, or what we like to see in the spirit. And Glendronach is certainly no different. They're using the local water. They're using, barley, and it's all about the distillery and where it sits in the region. We've got something trying to load up here. Here's the team. This is the current team. So maybe, okay, you won't see that because you're a minute behind me, but you'll see this coming up. So as I said, Glendronach is part of Benrec. Benrec and Glengussow are owned by the same company. And actually, there's an interesting story about Benrec. So Benrec also were closed down, and they were started again in 2001. I believe it's 2001, maybe 2000. And they were only bought for £5 million, which actually is crazy, silly money, like cheap money for a distillery. And it's even compounded because when they open the distillery doors, now you've got to remember these distilleries are sitting there mothballed, they're closed, they're gathering dust, no one's really working there. So they were bought, and the guys took it over. It was a complete mess. There was cobwebs. It was just complete, it had to be completely refurbed. But they walked into the warehouses and they saw they had whiskey sitting there that was 40 years old. So they paid $5 million for this distillery and had a load of whiskey that they could release, which is absolutely mad. So it probably gave them enough money to go and start buying other distilleries like the Glendronach. And as I say, they've managed to keep the style of the whiskey going, and keeping their core range and extending it beyond what was originally there. So Glendronach 12, it's called the original, and it's kind of what was their start of their core range. And this is totally different now. This is all about the sherry cask, as I said. If you put it to your nose, so give it a swirl as usual. Put it to your nose, and already you kind of see those flavors are different. I mean, the vanilla's there, but it's kind of, it's got a bit more weight to it. It's kind of more creamier. Joe said, "Oh, you used to work with Rachel? Okay, amazing." As I said, Joe is the owner of Boatyard, which we tried last week. So he's been in the industry a long time. Worked at LVMH and other places before, as well as the London Distilling Company, and now has his own amazing gin called Boatyard, which you can buy on our website, Craft Gins. So he obviously knows a lot of people. Okay, so on the nose again, we've got that vanilla, we've got the grapes, kind of that red grapes. As I say, because it's all the sherry influence now, so that bourbon's kind of not there so much. It's all about that fruitiness, that kind of dark fruit, and almost kind of mulled wine, I guess. Yeah, smoother and creamier. Yeah, absolutely. This is where, for me, whiskey, as I said, starts getting good. 12 years, 10 years, 12 years. That's where, for me, kind of it starts picking up. But yeah, let me know what you're getting. You should be getting, like I said, some of those lovely sort of darker fruits. Just picking up a bit more spice, perhaps raisins, that malted barley. Yeah, Chris Welch dark, but yeah, blackberries. Yeah, certainly you kind of seeing berries, and you'll see some of that dark berries will go along. Let's see what we get on the yeah, Sean, very fruity. Yeah, let's see what we get on the palate. Just to let you know, strength wise, we are at 43, so we just dropped down from that initial 46. Me, that first hit is giving me that spice, which is great, absolutely beautiful. I'm getting that woody bitterness, just a little bit of that dark chocolate bitterness. The back, yeah, Andrew, yeah, woody type of wood, yeah. So it's Rosso and Pedro Jimenez sherry. So that's giving us that sort of more, that deeper bitterness but still maintaining that really good fruit balance. So where we had kind of that sort of lighter sort of stone fruit with the previous whiskey, that's kind of now moved onwards, and it's almost like it's become marmalade. And it's kind of cooked up. So it's sort of just gone to the next level where it's become a bit more richer. Yeah, Sean, yeah, taste balanced, and absolutely. And the next sip you go in, when you go a little bit bigger on the next sip, you kind of feel those flavors really come through, and you start picking out a load more. A good tip, actually, is keep the whiskey in your mouth for the number of years it's aged. So 12 years old, keep it in your palate for 12 seconds before you swallow it. And you'll kind of just see how that flavor just starts really exploding and opening up. 12 seconds might be too long in terms of, actually keeping it in your palate. But if you keep it up to 8, 9, 10 seconds, certainly try it. Give it a go on your next one and see how those flavors just really opening up. Mm. Mm. And totally, you see it, you just see it happen. Like, you'll get extra flavor, it really opens up, and you start seeing all these other notes. You're still getting a lovely fire. Matthew Bell's getting that dark caramel sweetness. Yeah, really fruity. It's almost now heading to that sort of Christmas cake kind of flavors. It's nice and dark. Yeah, definitely nutty. You should get some of those almondy notes, kind of toasted almonds. It's not. It's not like I said. I think it's Richard picked out walnuts before. Um, yeah, it's kind of moved on from that. It's kind of toastier, and you're getting just this extra flavor and depth. Again, I wouldn't add water. Um, just keep it in your palate a little bit longer. Your mouth naturally just produces that saliva to help it water it down and open it up. So let it do that. Um, so yeah, let me know. Let me know what you're getting. Any flavors that you're picking up. See if there's any more comments. Yeah, really fruity and caramelized. Yeah, absolutely. Um, so it's getting to that stage where you're kind of maintaining that freshness, and you're getting a bit of that extra balance of that kind of that fruitier side, which is really starting to come through. But for me, Glendronach 12 is absolutely phenomenal. If you like Dalmore, um, Dalmore 12, then it's along those lines. If you've got a bottle of Glenfiddich in your cupboard, go and compare it next to a Glenfiddich 12 and the Glendronach 12, and you kind of see how this just seems to almost dwarf um, the Glenfiddich in terms of its flavour. Initially, the Glenfiddich is going to give you loads of flavour if you've got nothing to compare it to. But as soon as you start sitting in next to whiskies like this, you start seeing just a load more flavour. Why do you add water to number 3? Why don't you add water to number 3? Sorry, Andrew. Yeah. No, you absolutely can do. You absolutely can do. I tend not to add water to many of my whiskies, just because I kind of don't like some of what it does to the whiskey. I prefer the whiskey. It does open it up, and that's absolutely true. And if you want to add water, absolutely, this is your tasting just as much as it is mine. So try it with water. Let me know what you think. It's an interesting conversation when you talk about water and whiskey, and we will be adding water to some of them. So absolutely, but I prefer not to add water in a lot of ways. I don't mind adding an ice cube, and the reason why I don't mind adding an ice cube is because I can add the ice in, and it will help chill that drink down just a touch, um, and it will obviously dilute into the whiskey, but I can take it out, um, so I can kind of manage how much I want that dilution to occur. If I add water and I add a bit too much water, then I kind of then have to start adding more whiskey, which is not a bad thing. But you kind of, sometimes there's no going back. If you're in a bar environment, you're not just going to go and order another double. So I don't mind adding ice because I can manage how much dilution I want and what I want my whiskey to end up like. But yeah, absolutely, Andrew. If you want to add water, please go ahead. And I'm kind of at 43%. I kind of probably doesn't need it, me. And actually, I spoke to one of the brand ambassadors for this, and we were talking about water, and this is probably common because I've heard it a lot of times now from many distilleries. Ultimately, they say, I don't care how you drink the whiskey, whether you want to add water, whether you want to add ice, Coke, or whatever it is. I don't care as long as you drink my whiskey, and that's probably even more so this day and age. So yeah, absolutely. Andrew, great bitterness, the aftertaste like a vintage marmalade. Yeah, Chris Welsh. Chris just kind of said how much kind of depth and that sort of flavour and richness it has, and absolutely that's kind of what Glendronach is all about, and particularly sherry aged whiskey. So you kind of have a comparison now between the first, which was a bourbon aged whiskey with a hint of sherry and that lightness, kind of golden in colour, and then we've got the Glendronach, which is just about the sherry, and how the two compare. So now you'll know whether you're in that sort of bourbon aged or whether you are a sherry guy. But I'm just going to finish that one off because I think it's absolutely great. Yeah, brilliant. Love it. Glendronach 12 is phenomenal. Okay, so now we're moving on to bottle number 4. Why would you use this whiskey for an old fashioned? That's from Sunny. Yeah, I would use it for an old fashioned. I love old fashions. And with an old fashioned, the way it's made, because you're only using kind of 50 ml of whiskey, and you're using a tumbler like that. So you're diluting 50 ml of whiskey within a tumbler like that. And the process, for those of you who don't know, is about adding a little bit of ice, stirring, add a little bit of whiskey, stir, a little bit of ice, stir, a little bit of whiskey, keep stirring. You kind of maintain that stir, and you're adding a little bit of whiskey, a couple of cubes of ice, and you keep stirring. And the idea is that you're opening up that whiskey and opening the flavors up. So for me, because of that much dilution, you want something with a slightly higher ABV, and you want something with a lot of depth of flavor. So while you're going to lose a bit of the ABV, being at 43%, you're going to get it in flavor. So on a day like today, where it's really nice and hot, it's probably a great time to have an old fashioned made with something that's at 43%, because it's not going to do you in the heat, but it's going to give you some really good flavor. Lovely. You prefer 3 to 1? Yeah, maybe that's just your style, Karen and Ali. Yeah, maybe you like some of that richer, fuller body. Probably, you know what? You might. Do you like red wine, for example? Maybe you prefer red over white. Joe, something old fashioned would be amazing with this orangey loveliness. Absolutely. So with the old fashioned, the typical garnish would be an orange peel, a little bit of cherry, which this whiskey has got all of that. So definitely use it in an old fashioned. But if I'm going to use any one of these in an old fashioned, it's probably going to be number 3, which is the one. No, sorry, it's number 3 in mine. It's number 4 in your. What have you got? Number 3, number 4 in your set. Bottle number 4 is the one that we're going with, and that's the Glendronach 15. So I'm just losing my numbers because we jigged them around. So in your set is bottle number 4, and that's the next whiskey that we're going on, and that's the Glendronach 15, which is this amazing bottle here. There you go. Shane's put a lovely image up. Thank you very much, Shane. So World's Best Whiskey 2020. This is the one. So nominated World's Best Whiskey at the San Francisco Wine and Spirit Awards just this month, I believe. 15 years old, and this for me is where whiskey is kind of. This is where I like it. 15 years old. I don't really want to go too much beyond that. For me, That's just where I think whiskey is kind of just right. Why have you jumped onto number 4 already? Should not be there. Wait for me, Sean. So this is the revival. Okay, while I explain a little bit about this, please help yourself. Start pouring, open it up, and get a bit of aromas. The revival was actually called the revival prior to being called the revival. If that makes any sense. And let me explain why. Vis-a-vis the following. The Glendronach, they actually stopped making it in 2015. So the new owners, or the owners at the time, Ben Ray, decided they weren't going to make this anymore, and they stopped making it for 3 years. And they just then brought it back into the range in 2018. So I believe it was September of 2018 where it was released again, and hence the name, the Revival. But as I say, I believe it was already called the Revival before. So this is the 15-year-old. This is the world's best whiskey. There you go. Right. Great treat for tonight on a Friday night during lockdown. Brought to you by Tomoka Spirits. So we're going to put it into our glass. We're going to swirl it around. Let's look at the color. So we kind of didn't really look at the color too much on the other ones, but like I said, you have plenty left, and this is a really good way to kind of see what the whiskey is going to tell us. So straight away you can see it's kind of a lot darker. It's kind of got that kind of treacly, honey sort of tone. Sean, yeah, don't worry, it's all right. Just wait for the next one. He said he's a little eager. And then if you swirl it around like a wine, if you let it sit there, you start seeing the legs, and the legs indicates to us the sort of the sweetness, the fruitiness, and that sort of viscosity of the liquid. You know, so it kind of tells us just this color and the sight. And what it's doing in the glass tells us a lot. Sorry, you're covered by the image there. I don't know if you can see, but certainly on your glasses, you should be able to see. If you've got a glass that's kind of like this or a wine glass, you start seeing those legs. And that tells us a lot about the whiskey. So you'll see it's a lot thicker, a lot darker than the other ones that we tried before. Percentage-wise, we're at 46, so we've gone back up to 46. And on the nose, let's see what we're getting. So a lot bigger, you know. I'm just reading some of the comments. Sorry. A lot bigger, a lot bolder. Right. I know there's a few of you out here, Eddie, who's watching or taking part. This is kind of the whiskey that I know he likes. A lot of you are going to like this kind of whiskey, big, bold sherry. If you like Balvenie, if you like Dalmore, you know, these are the kind of whiskies that you're going to really want to be into. On the nose, again, it's stepped up again from the 12-year-old. Start getting a bit of coffee, a bit of toffee. We're getting some, you know, kind of almost turns into treacle. Yeah, absolutely sultanas, but those sultanas, Matthew, are almost becoming, you know, raisins. They're becoming, you know, those sort of cherry notes, right? You're still getting that woodiness. You get, because the wood is interacting with the liquid a bit longer, so it's drying it out a little bit, and it's giving you a bit more spiciness, a bit more woodiness. But it's maintaining that lovely kind of orangey fruit. Not fresh orange, but it's there with that chocolatey orange, and that fig. Sonny, your legs are wobbling. I hope that's a good thing. Big nose, absolutely. So that's kind of some of the flavors that we're getting. Now, if you put it on the palate, again, you'll see that. So let's go with a little sip, little dab, put it on your palate. As I just let it kind of sit on your tongue, and just, you know, just kind of introduce yourself to that whiskey, or let the whiskey introduce itself to you. So straight away, the first thing you see is kind of that mintiness, is that dry woodiness, that bitterness, that chocolatey, that that fruit that we had before in that 12-year-old, that lovely fresh kind of cooked fruit has escalated up to cherries and dark plum. It's almost like it is that Christmas cake. It's, hints of, it's fighting with that fresh and that bitter. Let's go again with a little bit of a bigger mouthful and let it sit there. Now, again, as I said, 15 seconds to really open it up. But 10, 11, something like that is going to be very, very good.
Hi everyone, just technical difficulties there. I think Jas has just dropped off. I'm just going to put you on the hold here, and I'm going to try and instigate him back into the system. So just keep some amused there, keep nosing it, keep tasting it, and I'm going to just try and get Jas back on board now. 1 second.
Hey, I'm back. Okay, so you probably lost me. I didn't realize you lost me. So hopefully you haven't drunk all the whiskey. Please say you haven't drunk all the whiskey, because this is where we're going to try the chocolate. So, okay, look, I apologize. I think we lost connection there for a while. So I don't know how far you got, but I see the comments rolling in. It's piece of bottom red and run for it. It's an oily finish. I'm sorry, I'm just catching up on these. Yes, yeah, Matthew, oily, absolutely. Joseph says the revival is delicious. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so look, this is the one we're going to try the chocolate with. Okay, I've spared no expense. I've gone for Aldi chocolate, but it does the trick. Okay, Aldi is actually a very good retailer. It does dark chocolate. You've got the orange, and you've got the almonds. So it kind of fits our kind of profile of what we're looking for. So I actually ran out of the chocolate orange, so I've just got a fudgy chocolate orange myself. But what I want you to do is try a little bit of the whiskey and then have a bite of the chocolate, or have a bite of the chocolate and then have a little bit of the whiskey. Either way, it doesn't really matter. The point is that when you've got a whiskey, sometimes it's just nice to have something paired with it. And I often drink my whiskey with some cheese, or if it's smoky, I might have some salmon, or if it's just a good kind of big, full-bodied Highland malt, then I'm going to go for a dark piece of chocolate orange. And believe me, if you've never had it before, it's just going to, I'm going to use that famous phrase, it's a game changer. So, a little bit of whiskey, try the orange. You're saying hold it for 15 seconds to release the flavor. Yeah, collect many. Yeah, absolutely. So the age of the whiskey is how long you want to hold it in your mouth for ultimately. That opens up the flavors, and your palate just starts, because of the alcohol content, starts releasing saliva, and that naturally waters down the whiskey and kind of takes it to a really good place and opens up the flavors for you. So just try it. I mean, 15 seconds is kind of a long time, but certainly 10, 12, even 8 seconds, anything just to kind of open it up. So I'm going to have a little bite. And then I'm going to try some whiskey. And that, for me, whiskey chocolate heaven. Mason says that's great with the chocolate. Yeah, chocolate really alters the flavor. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? It should sort of marry, really. I'm hoping to marry it. Wow, that's a perfect pairing. That's magic with the chocolate, absolutely. So look, chocolate and whiskey is just a good combination. It's something I like to do a lot of myself. And anyone that I know likes whiskey, I tell them, try chocolate. And it has to be dark chocolate. Bourneville's not going to cut it, because you need that cocoa, and you need that orange. And this particular one, the reason why I really like it is because it's got the almond as well. So everything's kind of working together. Georgina says this incredible with the chocolate. His parents is Laurel and Hardy, love it. So why was it best whiskey in the world? What makes it the best whiskey? Because what, as a whiskey, yeah, it's absolutely great. Is it the best in the world? So the process for the San Francisco Awards is the judges will try all the spirits and they're blindfolded. So it's a blind tasting. They have no idea what it is, what they're trying. They judge it on its merits, and anyone that gets a double gold from all the judges in that tasting go on to the best in show category, or the best in class, rather. So there's whiskies that are just going to get one gold, so they're going to be quite liked. Any whiskey or spirit across what they're tasting in the category, that gets a double gold from every judge goes to best in class. From there, again, it's blind tasted again, and then the double golds are given best for their class. So they actually judged the best whiskey, single malt Scotch whiskey, or best American whiskey, or best Swedish whiskey, or best gin, or best Navy strength, or best blend, whatever it may be. And then from there, the best in class up to best in show. So it's kind of like Crufts. And then you are choosing the best of the best for that category. And this year, this particular one made it through all of those blind and got to best. So it's an expression of what a sherry aged whiskey should be. It's they obviously knew as a Scotch, had that maltiness. So it's not a fluke. It's not like it wasn't meant to be, or it's just someone said it's the best. This is legitimately, it's been awarded as one of the best. So it's a legitimate process. So look, we've paired it with the chocolate, and for me, it's phenomenal. Let me know what you're thinking. Paddy says whiskey and chocolate is isolation heaven. Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, I'm glad we could do something for you. Yeah, for me, it's a great whiskey, and 15 years old is, for me, where whiskey is kind of its best. I love that age. I love that balance of the flavor. I love that chocolatiness. I love all those kind of depth, and you get a hint of spice and the mintiness and that earthiness. After 18 years old, it's still really good. But for me personally, I lose that freshness, and I love whiskey, and I drink vast quantities of it. So I love to have something that maintains a fruit balance. And for me, at 15, you're just getting that right character. At 18, you start losing it a bit. Would I have it with water? 46%. Again, I probably wouldn't. But absolutely, if you want to, you do that. Like I said, I like to add a bit of ice. And actually, whiskey stones are a really good idea. Whiskey stones actually come from an old tradition. So people, they wanted to add they wanted to cool the whiskey down, right? But they didn't want to water it down necessarily, and they didn't want to add ice. So what they used to do was go to the glens and the water sources near the distillery. So these are the same water sources that have made their way into the whiskies. And what they do there is go to the little rivers and the glens and pick up stones from the bottom of the riverbed, and they would put those that lovely clear mineral water. They'd put that into their whiskey glass, and that would serve the purpose of chilling the whiskey down without diluting it. But you'd get the natural water that has gone into the whiskey in the first place. So whiskey stones is actually a legitimate thing that is part of whiskey tradition. So whiskey stones are a great idea. Like I said, I don't mind a bit of ice, which I can then remove. But if you want to add water to this particular whiskey, then please do that. Great, love it, love it. So hopefully you've all found that the 15-year-old is legitimate best whiskey 2020. And hopefully you all found that it worked really well with the chocolate. If you have some chocolate left, then you could probably use it on the next one as well, because we're going to go up to the cask strength, which is going to be absolutely like big. It's bold. Yeah, so let's move on to our fourth whiskey. In your set, it's number 2, bottle number 2. In your set, in my set, it's Glendronach batch strength number 2. Sorry, number 4. But in your set, it's number 2. So this is not in their core range. So we've tried 3 of the core range. The only one we missed was the 18 and possibly the 21. But like I said, with this particular tasting, with just these 4 whiskies, we're trying so much. We're covering so many different angles. And here we're covering 2. We're covering cask strength, and normally cask strength you'd say 57%, but here we're going for a strength of 61% volume, right? So it's big. Okay, it's really big. You got that glass? There you go. So it's big. So here I'm going to urge you to add some water, and I'd urge you to try it with some chocolate, because the chocolate is just going to help take some of that punch and that fire away. Okay, so this is batch number 8. So Glendronach do these limited releases every year. Sometimes it'll be a 21-year-old whiskey or an older whiskey. Sometimes traditionally they're batches of cask strengths, and this is the latest release. Batch 8 it's only just come out, and it's at 61%. And if you've never had cask strength, then you're going to get your mind blown. Now, something normally with a full bottle, you'd know it's cask strength. So, sometimes they'll say cask strength, it might not be cask strength. The way to check it would be to shake the bottle like that in the shop, full bottle, and you'll see it bubble up. If you've still got your bottle and you haven't opened it yet, give it a little shake, you'll see it bubbles all appear, and that's how you can tell it's cask strength. It's got a lovely blue label. It's got a lovely kind of deep blue tone to it on the box. And there was something interesting. Yeah, non-chill filtered. So something Glendronach do is non-chill filter everything. I saw there was a comment earlier on about the oiliness of the whiskey. That is a product of non-chill filtered whiskey. So with non-chill filtered whiskies, you tend to get a lot more flavour because they haven't filtered it out. You'll get that oiliness in there, which is kind of a classic quality of a non-chill filtered whiskey. And you get these particles when it's cold. You get these little particles that appear in the bottle. And some people think, well, something wrong with the whiskey. Absolutely not. That's just part of the non-chill filtered product. What age is this, or is it a blend? No, Dominic, this is single malt again. But it's at cask strength. So age-wise, they're not really talking about the age. It's likely that it's 9 to 10 years old, possibly 8, but certainly not below that. I doubt it's below 8 years old. But again, we're going to tell when we put it on our palate. We'll tell whether that freshness is there, or whether we're getting some of those richer notes. So we can tell from comparing what we've tried today whether this is going to be slightly younger or slightly older. So let's try it. Pour in the glass. Now I really need to urge you. I'm going to try it neat, and I'm probably not going to add water to it, but I would urge you to try it neat, just on your tongue, just a little dab on your tongue. Just give it a go, and see what it's like to try this big whiskey at this strength. Again, give it a swirl around. Okay, let it open up. Help yourself a little bit. Let it open up. See what you're getting. If you swirl it around, just hold it under your nose, you start picking out some top notes. And because it's such a strong whiskey in terms of strength, those flavor, you'll start picking up some really sort of lighter notes of those pears and some of those sort of top notes that will get lost deep in your nose. Yeah, it's got some legs for sure. Absolutely. Ali, at that strength, yeah, and that sort of, yeah, I mean, they're big. It's big, it's oily. Even the color, right? The color is not kind of golden like the 8-year-old. It's not quite as dark as the 15, but it's certainly carrying a bit of color in there, or not reddy, but kind of red. Yeah. So look, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I'm not getting that hit of power on the nose. I'm getting the strength. There is definitely strength there, and there's definitely more than the other one, but I'm not getting, that kind of 61%, which indicates to me that it's really well made. It's probably had a little bit more age to it. Sonny says getting cherries. You know what? Yeah, you're going to get some of that. You're going to get some of that caramel, that cherry. Absolutely. Has anyone had a sample yet? Has anyone tried it? Got to admit, I'm a bit scared. I'm getting that chocolate. I'm still getting that chocolate, which tells me it's slightly older. Possibly even up to 12 years old. Let's go for a little dab on the palate and see what's happening. You know what? There's not even a single bit of burn. You are not drinking cask strength whiskey at 61%. That's for sure. Yeah, some people are getting those cherries. Some people get those oaky notes, that woodiness. Shane's got coffee. Yeah, absolutely right. Everything that you guys are saying is absolutely right. These are all the things that you should be getting, that I'm getting, that you should be getting. My wife has joined and she's drinking all my whiskey. Dominic, next time you need to order 2 sets. Al, oh yes, without water, I like it. Yeah, look, you've got enough to have 2 samples, right? So try a bit like this. If you want to add some water, try it. Now, what I'm going to do with water, this is what I would normally do. When I say add water, I don't mean pour water in. I mean get your finger, dip it in the water, and just drop a couple of drops in. That's what I'm talking about. I literally am saying just add a couple of drops of water, okay? Because I'm not looking to dilute it. I'm just looking to help open up that flavor. At 61%, it's going to be a little bit closed, you would expect, and the water is just going to help open it up. If you want to lose that strength entirely, then either obviously you don't like cask strength, and that's fine. You don't buy cask strength. But if you want to lose the strength, then you want to add a bit more water, and that's absolutely fine. By doing that, you're not going to ruin the whiskey at all. At 61%, you're just going to open up and release some other tones and other notes that you weren't getting at 61%. So in many ways, it's a good thing to do. But I love cask strength whiskey, so I wouldn't do that. I would just add the touch, like I showed you, and then try it with the chocolate. And honestly, it's just going to be beautiful. It's really lovely, powerful, but not overwhelming. That's from Georgina. Yeah, absolutely right. Chris, no burn, but palpable warmth. Yeah, again, I agree with everything that you guys are saying. It's almost infernal on the mouth. Yeah, Sean. So that's something that I hadn't picked up on. That, you know what? So there, right there. If you leave it in your mouth a bit longer, and you just before you take it down, right on the tip of your tongue, you get some of that licorice, and that could be some of that fennel that you're talking about, some of that aniseed note. But right there on the tip of your tongue, you're getting this licorice flavor, and at the back there's that bitter coffee. You're getting that chocolate. Let me know. Are you getting some of those lovely notes? Have you tried it with the coffee, with the chocolate? Yeah. Has anyone tried it with the chocolate? Joe says barbecue pineapple. Still haven't added water. Joe, I don't know. I don't know if you need to. I know you love high strength. I know you do because I've seen your work. So I know you love high strength whiskey. So for me, for you, I don't know if I would add much water, but certainly you've got enough to try. So let me know what you think. Matthew, that was kind of smoky, not traditional smoke, more cigar smoke. Yeah, you know what? That could be an effect of the wood. Certainly, there shouldn't be any smoke in there. But if you're getting it, then yeah, I can't argue with you. But I'm definitely getting that there's that sweetness there, you know, which I said from the licorice. You're getting, certainly I'm getting it, and that coffee and chocolate is kind of merged and become a mocha, you know, and it's kind of everything's all there as we've seen in the previous whiskies, but it's kind of merging together more. Um, yeah, Georgina White with chocolate is lush. I'm going to give it a go. You've tempted me now. Yeah, that chocolate, that dark bitterness really works, and then that orange kind of helps bring out and open up some of those citrusy notes that are hiding away in the background. So yeah, for me that really is good. I think this for me is the best whiskey of the range so far. In terms of obvious flavour, the 15 and the 12, in terms of that kind of my style of whiskey, what I love, that kind of big bold flavors. I'd say, you know, the 15 and the 12, but I love that high strength, and for me, this one is my favourite of the tasting. Let me know. Let's have a vote. Who let me know what your favourites are. Did you like that 8-year-old Highland? Oh no. Did you like the Highland? Did you like the 12? Did you like the world's best whiskey, the 15-year-old? Or did you like the cask strength? You know, have you just discovered now that actually cask strength isn't as scary as you thought it was? And actually, that, you know what, is something you're going to do more of. Dominic, you get the aniseed. Sunny also says, yeah, you get that fennel. Yeah, you know what? Fennel, like I said, it's probably that some of that sweet spice, some of that. There's definitely something there. That something aniseedy is definitely there. Like I said, I got that licorice. To me, it just powered through as licorice. But you know what? Everyone gets something different. Everyone's going to get something slightly different. Love it. 15 in the car strength. Do for me. Yeah. Al, yeah, for me, I agree more. Dominic, definitely the 15 is the best. Great. Number 4 with the chocolate is our favourites. That was your 15-year-old, right? Your 15 with the chocolate is a good combo. Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Christmas time, when you've got your mince pies, someone mentioned mince pies earlier, or if you've got Christmas cake, a drop of 15-year-old Glendronach, plate of mince pies, Boxing Day done. Beautiful. All are lovely. Would add all the dark cupboard. Yeah, I would add all to drink in the cupboard as well. But 15 wins. Okay, Georgina, good shout. Sunny definitely at number 4, the best. Again, that's the 15. Okay, good. So you guys are loving the 15-year-old, and why not? It was world's best whiskey, and so muchly deserved. All these whiskies, obviously, Scotch, single malt. What is single malt? Single malt is a whiskey made from one distillery that is made with malted barley. So there's no other type of grain included. And why is that different to blend? Well, is a distiller. A master blender is saying, I want to create a type of whiskey, and for that, I'm going to need a bit of Ardbeg. I'm going to need Glendronach 15. I'm going to need a bit of strength from somewhere else. I'm going to need some Balblairs to give me some lovely tropical fruits, and I'm going to create this type of blend. So blend is not a bad thing. As I say, this Glendronach distillery only came as a single malt in 1968. And it's been going since 1826. So up until that point, it was only making blended whiskies or whiskies that were for blends. So blends is kind of fundamental to the Scotch industry and its survival. So, blended whiskey are really good, and it's just an expression of a particular blender's kind of vision. Single malt is an expression of a distillery, and all the whiskies are from that distillery only, made by that distillery only, and are barley, using barley rather than any other grain. So that's ultimately what single malt is. Just go back to some of these comments. I've not tasted a whiskey like the 12 number 3 before. I really liked it. Yeah, I believe that. Not Carnist. Yeah. So look, what do you normally drink? Do you normally go for younger whiskies, or do you tend to go for whiskies that aren't necessarily in sherry before? Dominic says the 12 took me back to my 12 Dalmore. Yeah, again, all that sherry, those same sort of sherry notes that you're getting is great. So yeah, like I said, Dalmore, Glendronach, they're very similar. Balvenie, they all kind of come from the same place. The thing I like about this one is it has that extra edge in that it's got that non-chill filtered process. So they're not taking out the flavour, and they're increasing the oiliness, which really kind of sits well in the whiskey. So look, that is it. That is our tasting tonight. We've tried the Highland, the 8-year-old, the 12-year-old. We've tried the Glendronach 15, tried the Fast Batch 61, the new Batch 8 release, which was my favourite. We've paired it with chocolate. Hopefully you found some good combinations, found some great whiskies. All these are available from us at Tomoka Spirits, and anyone that's on the tasting today, you'll get a 10% discount. So please email us or let us know. We'll ship them out to you. Shane, anything you want to say?
Nothing. I can feel it in my head now, though. It's strange because actually, when I was bottling these up, I had a quick sneaky peek of the batch, the cask strength, and I wasn't taken by it because I found it a bit overpowering. But I think it's because I didn't taste it and nose it the right way you should do when you're sitting down for a tasting. And now that I've done that, yeah, you're right. It's not overwhelming at all, really, for the strength. You can really nose it off and enjoy that palate. So that's probably, I think that might be my go-to out of all of them. I really did like the 15-year, definitely. But I think that cask strength, and with the chocolate as well, works really well. Really well.
Amazing. Chocolate whiskey, if you've just discovered it, honestly, is a go-to. And like I said before, cheese also works really well, and something salty. Not a carnist says he liked the peaty and slightly smoky ones. That's what you like. So with those, try smoked salmon and try Parmesan cheese, because that saltiness and that smokiness works with those kind of whiskies. So definitely play around with that. Shane, what other tastings have we got coming up?
So at the moment, the Fine and Rares has sold out. So unfortunately, like I did say, I messaged there Matthew in terms of if I can sneak out another one. But other than that, it's going to be the Swedish seasonal, which is going to be another fantastic tasting from Myra. So that's on the 16th of May. So tickets are still available for that now. I think the link is I've switched the link on our Instagram bio. So that now if you go onto our Instagram page, it's in the bio there for the link for the Swedish tasting. There's a couple of tickets left for our gin tasting. If any of you fancy some gin for next week, and that's on our craft gins page. Yeah. But what I'll do is I'll send out another email over the weekend which will have those links in for those two anyway.
Okay.
And I believe, I mean, we'll get together on Monday and discuss what we're going to do for the next whiskey tasting to book one in.
We have got the Swedish on World Whisky Day, 16th of May, Swedish Whisky Tasting, and we've got a rum one booked for May as well. So if you like rum, it's an amazing rum tasting we're gonna get planned for you.
Yeah, email for the rum should go out on the Monday with final details on that one. And someone messaged us the other day to potentially ask about cognac. So we'd also like to get feedback from everyone. You know, if there's enough demand to do a cognac tasting, then 100% we're down to get one out there and put it out there. So, you know, give us your feedback if you're interested in seeing the cognac tasting. Yeah, please let us know. You know, we go off feedback all the time. So if the demand's there, you know, it's just like the rum we're doing because we've had demand. A lot of people asking for rum. So that'll be out there as soon as possible. And like just mentioned, anything that you want to order from tonight across the range of Glendronach, DM us or email, and you'll get 10% off any bottle purchases from tonight.
As you all know, 10% of sales from the tickets are going to a local food bank. So part of these tastings, we're trying to give some donations back to a local food bank to help those people that are struggling. So thank you all tonight. You've all helped someone else by joining us. So I just want to say thank you to everyone, and also thank you to everyone who's saying thank you to us for doing the tasting tonight. So
you're more than welcome to hosting the tasting as well. So I think everyone's appreciative of your time, Jess.
Thank you. That's what we do. Shane, thanks for sorting it all out in the with the back end as well. I believe I went offline for a bit.
Yeah, I think it's just connection. I can always see when your connection is going, so I always panic a little bit because I can see it dropping, and I'm like, oh, it's going to go. It's just trying to catch up with from the live screen here. So, but yeah, thank you to everyone, and yeah, we'll see you at the next one, and see you all soon. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.